Well, it is time to bring in our final panelist of the Fred says don't Google it.
Not gonna. Thank you.
We are pleased that now he has been sitting idly by, watching and listening to the show, waiting for his cue. And we're just pleased as punch, as they would say 50 years ago, to bring in really one of the, not only is he on the CornNation staff, but he's one of the preeminent wrestling writers that you'll come across. As many flowers as I give to Beth for volleyball, I give flowers for wrestling and the journalistic integrity to Dylan. The way he covers the sport, it's second to none. It's very thorough. It's very exceptional. Dylan, welcome back to the 5 Heart Podcast.
I appreciate it. I've been having a lot of fun listening. You know, as far as I knew, I didn't know Nebraska had any other sports, you know.
This is why we bring you on at the end of the show.
I thought it was a wrestling school.
You know what? It might be. Josh says Big Red
Todd
Wrestling. And Fred says it's Dylan the wrestling guy. Not that kind of wrestling, Fred. Just so you know.
So yeah, let's have it. What are we starting with Polar Bear or what?
I really think we probably need to start with Polar Bear. I mean, there's so much. Nebraska's in the midst of a tremendous season. But the thing, of course, because it's tied to football, that grabs most of the headlines is the fact that Nash Hutmacher stepped onto the mat for the first time since high school and was fairly successful.
Right. I'll tell you, without Nash, Nebraska is a top 3 wrestling team in the country. But I think he helps. I think he's going to help fill the stands and kind of, you know, add a lot of intrigue from Husker Nation that doesn't really give as much love to the wrestling team as they probably should. You know, he's a big man, and I've been, you know, I work for, obviously, like you said, I appreciate the intro. You know, I'm the Husker insider for Flow Wrestling, so I actually go watch practice like every other week, and I'll talk to Manning or whoever I'm, you know, interviewing for my piece for them. And I'd say about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, I went and I go, all right, I know that guy. You know, I see this huge person over in the corner, and it's Nash. And I'm like, okay, I know who that is. I figure he was just doing the whole, you know, like lose a little, because I asked Manning and he told me, you know, Matt Rule just wants him to trim some pounds off and get more agile and more athletic for his senior year. You know, they don't want him at 330. So I figured that was a good way to, you know, they figured it was a good way to get there. But apparently he dropped 40 pounds in a month. Yeah. And I could see it because when I saw him the first time, he looked 3. I mean, I don't think those guys are ever what they were listed. You know, right. on a football, you know, like you'll see a basketball roster, the guy's listed 6'9", he's 6'7", right? It happens all the time.
So you're saying they may fudge a little.
Yeah, they fudge a little bit. He was about 320.
Are you saying the guys lie about?
I think that's what he's saying, Greg.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Always.
There's the weight on the scale and there's the weight on the in the program. It's just
right. But like the first time I saw him, he was easily, you know, he was 320 and he was sweating at practice. Like he's not used to that kind of practice. And then I went a couple weeks later and he was a little smaller. And I went a couple of weeks later and like it was the week before he wrestled against Wyoming. And I go, man, he don't look like he's even 300 pounds.
Wow.
So somehow he made 285, which makes him the largest heavyweight in the country. I mean, you know, the weight limit's 285, but 90% of guys are like 260.
Gotcha.
That wrestle.
I was going to ask that because, you know, there's, you know, forgive me, I don't know the specific, like, was it 235 or 195 or something like that? But I always was curious if heavyweight had a cap on it.
Yeah, it's a 285 cap, but like the weight below that is 197. So that's like, 80 some pounds difference. So anybody that's, 220 or higher is going to be a heavyweight.
Gotcha.
And, most guys are like, our starting heavyweight most of the year is about 245. And Nash had to cut 40 pounds to get to 285.
He's always been a heavyweight, though. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was a heavyweight also.
Yeah. In high school, he was like, he was a 4-time champ and went 166-0. I think he set
72 straight pins is what I read.
Yeah. He set like the national record for the most pins in a row ever, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the dude, I went and looked once, and like every match of his was like 1 minute and 2 seconds.
Some comments here, Dylan, regarding Nash and as it pertains wrestling in large. James says it takes a lot of prune juice to lose weight that fast. If that were the case, I would have a lot more prune juice. We had Fred who had said, you kind of answered the question, but said, how long did Polar Bear practice with the team before he crushed that jabroni? And you said 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, about 5 weeks, yeah.
And Josh is very jealous. Josh says, it's official. Dylan has my dream gig, and now I want to hate him, but I won't. So
that's all right, Josh. It's fun. You can read my stuff.
I want to talk about this Nebraska wrestling squad is – I think, are they ranked 3rd or 4th? Or
well, it depends on where you look. I don't really trust coaches' rankings because coaches don't pay attention to everybody.
Right.
I more lean towards the media rankings, and what I go with is Flow Wrestling, who I work for.
Right.
Their team rankings, they basically rank every weight class, and then the corresponding points that they would get at like the NCAA tournament in that spot, they add it up. Nebraska's number 2. The funny thing is Penn State, who might have an all-time best team in history this year, they're projected like 130 points, and Nebraska's number 2 projected 67.
That's a very large gap.
Yeah, it's like double.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And then, and then the next
State really just that good?
Yeah, they have like 2 guys that are 3-time champs. They have like 9 All-Americans on the team. They could break the NCAA scoring record this year, possibly. Did
you happen to talk to Nash at all?
I haven't yet, but I'm actually planning on doing it next week for a piece. So I'm hoping to. I mean, they can always say no.
I mean, I just want to know why. I know he's always loved wrestling, and he's a junior. Why now?
Yeah, I'll be interested to find out. I think it also has to do with the fact that heavyweight was Nebraska's worst weight class on the roster. So like adding a guy like Nash. Like what I really want to know is like how committed is he? How much leeway does Rule give this coaching staff to use him? Is he going to be at the Big Ten and NCAA tournament? And is he going to be allowed to be there? Like, I don't know if they're going to use him for a couple duels here and there, or if he's going to be like the guy.
Oh, because he could get injured or something.
Right.
Potentially. Okay.
When is the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA? Is it end of February, beginning of March? Okay, they're both in March. Okay.
Yeah, like that's
spring football
beginning and end of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I mean, those are all questions that I have. That I'll be. But I've been, obviously, a couple weeks ago. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with Husker wrestling outside of the Polar Bear too. Like the new assistant coach James Green.
You sounded offended by that, by the way. You're like, don't bring your football problems over here. We're doing okay without you.
You football people.
I know. Like, get out of here. We're already good, right?
Well, you're schooling us. We need to know this.
Well, yeah. I mean, like we got 9 guys ranked in their weight classes. The only one not ranked is Nash.
For now.
So, and like we're taking on Iowa, a team we haven't beaten since 05. But Iowa's kind of in a down year, and Nebraska has kind of one of its best teams it's had in a long time. So it looks prime for an opportunity for Nebraska to get a win, especially being at home. I mean, obviously, you guys probably talked about before the gambling suspensions for Iowa State. I don't know if you guys talked about that at all.
We haven't talked about it. No.
Not tonight.
Yeah. Tell us the juicy details.
Yeah. Iowa lost like 3 starters before the season to NCAA violations for like gambling suspensions. So like 3 of their starters are just like their eligibility is gone for the year, and they're all seniors, so they're just done.
Too bad for them.
So, I mean, that like makes this, this team, they're against it right now against Nebraska. They are not favored. But like looking at the lineups, there's like 6 or 7 like toss-up matches, like literal coin flips that could decide it either way.
Yeah. On your the flow, what's it called again?
Flowwrestling.org.
Flow Wrestling. It said that they were ranked like 7th or 8th. Iowa?
Who, Iowa?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're at number 6 right now, and Nebraska's number 2.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of gap, like, between, there's 60 points separating Nebraska and Penn State, and like the next 6 teams are like separated by like 12.
Oh, okay.
So like it's kind of a race for second place this year.
Gotcha. Real good question here from James. He's asking, you mentioned everybody who's projected to wrestle tomorrow against Iowa is ranked except for Nash. Oh, that's not the right one. What is the minimum number of matches one needs to be able to be ranked?
I mean, there's not really a minimum. It just kind of, has to go with what have you done? And, like that was Nash's first college match, and it was against an unranked freshman. So, pinning that guy, that guy would get pinned by a lot of top dudes.
That particular one didn't really move the needle. Is that what you're saying?
No, not so much. But like this weekend, it might.
Yeah.
No, I saw
against Iowa.
I saw that. Is this being streamed just like on?
This is on Big Ten, like the Big Ten Network, Friday night on cable.
Great. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a big atmosphere. I think they're gonna try to. I mean, obviously, I don't know with the storm. The snowstorm is supposed to be coming in, so it might be tough. But I'm expecting a huge crowd. Like as far as what they're used to at Devaney. I mean, they usually go a couple thousand people. They're never packing the place, which, I think is kind of a travesty because those dual matchups are super fun. I mean, they helped get Dylan Raiola, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was actually there. I was actually at that duel when I saw him. Like they had the whole section roped off for him. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
You can't come on the show and talk about almost encounters with Dylan Raiola in front of Minnie because it's not.
Hey, my name's Dylan, though. We got the same name.
Hey, there you go.
Minnie auditioned to try to be on the chain gang of the school that Dylan was attending in Arizona. When he left, she said, "No, I don't want to be here anymore." She tanked her audition. Let's see. I had a fun question here from Aaron. Wants to know if we can call singlets wrestling leotards.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're old, my dad calls it wrestling. It's super funny. I love it.
Let's see here. So I was actually looking at flowwrestling.org yesterday, and your colleague John Kozak, and doing a full preview, and his predictions for the duel tomorrow night, Big Ten Network, 6:30 Central, God's preferred time zone, by the way. 5:30 if you live out in the Mountain time zone. I don't know anybody who would want to do that. But you're right. There's a lot of ranked wrestlers on both sides. Nebraska has the edge right now. I want to talk about some of Nebraska's worst because they did have a little bit of attrition. I mean, some guys, finally aged out of collegiate wrestling, but one guy who took last year off from collegiate wrestling and wrestled more internationally. He's now the number 1 ranked 149-pound wrestler in the country, and that's Ridge Lovett. How impressive is this guy?
As far as like wrestling wise, he took a year off to work on his offense on the feet, because a lot of, as there's 3 phases to wrestling. You got on the feet, neutral, on top, and on bottom, right? Now he is as elite as it gets on top. I mean, I don't know if you've watched many wrestling matches, but they get to choose top or bottom ones, right?
Stand down, Fred.
To start the period. And 99% of wrestling matches you're going to watch, the guy's going to choose down to get the escape point. Very few people even choose down against Ridge Lovett, because he just turns you and pins you. He's like a leech. It's pretty crazy to watch when he gets going on top. Like it looks miserable. These guys are miserable wrestling Ridge Lovett on the bottom. So they just choose neutral. So they don't even want that escape point because they know they're not getting it. But like also, I've talked to him a handful of times too, and he's super impressive. Interview. He's ultra confident, has a lot of swagger about him, kind of, some moxie. Like he's he has a personality to him. I personally think he's going to break Nebraska's streak of no national champs since Jordan Burroughs. I think he'll win it this year. He already beat the number 2 guy. 2 years ago, he was in the NCAA final as a sophomore. So he's been there. And the guys that were kind of ahead of him, but when he was young, are graduated out. So it's kind of his time. And I mean, talking to him, he wants to be a 2-time national champ. That's his goal.
Now it's time to do it then.
Dylan, I have a question for you. So
What's
as
that?
far as wrestling goes, I heard that, beyond college, there's just, the Olympics, basically. Well, you can do that also in college, but what else is there for a wrestler to do? I mean, that's part of...
That's kind of a thing that, like, more so in the past, it was kind of those guys went to MMA or coaching.
WWE.
Right?
Say it, Dylan. Say it.
Or if you want to, not use your potential, you'll go to WWE. Like Gable Stevenson, right? But I mean, every year there's a world championship. There's multiple, tournaments all around the world that you can go to. There's money to be made. Like a guy like Jordan Burroughs makes money. But it's not very easy for these lower level guys to do it. Mm-hmm. I think they're kind of working towards these guys being able to get paid more.
They need to. But
I mean, a lot of it is just like these elite guys, they go to UFC. I mean, Kamaru Usman, he wrestled at UNK. A lot of these, like Justin Gaethje was an All-American wrestler. John Jones was a wrestler. I mean, a lot of these guys in, Colby Covington was a wrestler. These guys have to go somewhere to make money, and wrestling's a really good base for MMA. Like a Bo Nickel. Okay, Bo Nickel was one of the best college wrestlers of all time that I've ever seen. Penn State. And he is in the UFC now, undefeated. I think he's just like 4-0. But a lot of people are saying he's going to be a future champ because, like, nobody can wrestle with him. Like, nobody can. And, I mean, he made All-Americans look like he was wrestling me when he was in college.
You mentioned Jordan Burroughs and how it's Ridge Lovett's goal or dream to be the first national champion in Nebraska since Burroughs. What year was Burroughs here? Because I know he's been a multi-time
he won
Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, he won in 2011.
Okay. I knew it was more than a decade for whatever reason. I want to say like 09, but I'm glad that you.
Well, it was he won in 09 too. He won 09 and 11.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But then he had a year in between where he got hurt and had to take a medical.
A couple of the other, again, when you're talking about almost 15 guys who are ranked for Nebraska. We could spend and probably should spend a whole episode on it. But Peyton Robb, Brock Hardy, Caleb Smith. Tell me what you expect in that 125 matchup with Caleb, because your colleague over at Flow Wrestling, I don't know if he's giving Smith all the love he should be.
Yeah, man, that's a tough matchup. Drake Ayala from Iowa is really good. But that's just another one of the matchups here where, Caleb Smith's ranked 5th. He's 14-2. His 2 losses came to the same guy. He sometimes in wrestling stylistically, you just can't get past a guy that wrestles a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. But you can beat everybody else. Now, Drake Ayala, he's number 9. He's 9-1. So they're both on, having super solid seasons, but that's just another coin flip. And honestly, how tight this duel is going to be, the winner of that match might decide it.
Well, and we talked about just the competitive evenness. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's the one I stuck with. Silas Allred's another one that we kind of didn't lean into, but your buddy John over there, he says he predicts this thing could go down to the heavyweight, the final match or bout of the evening. He has the Iowa wrestler defeating Nash if Nash is in that spot. I don't want to put you on the spot, and I don't want to put you at odds with your Flow Wrestling colleague. I mean, right. I do. I'm going to.
But let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's do that thing that I'm dancing around. Honestly, how do you see this duel going tomorrow night, Iowa, Nebraska?
Okay, well, originally last night when I wrote my preview, it wasn't known who either team was going to wrestle. So I kind of wrote a thing about it could be Nash for Nebraska. It could be Harley Andrews for Nebraska. It could be this Bradley Hill guy for Iowa, who's a redshirt freshman. He's solid, but nothing spectacular. But here's the rub, is Iowa actually has its own football player / wrestler. And he's a heavyweight too. His name's Ben Keeter. He's a linebacker, right?
What's his name?
Ben Keeter.
Okay.
In high school he was 111-0.
So not 166. I'm just saying.
It's not 166. So 4-time champ. He was also a U20 world champion though. When he was 17, he won a U20 world championship. Wow. But here's the deal. And I went into it in the article, is I don't think they're going to wrestle him because Manning already came out and said Nash is wrestling. And Nash is listed, so they're both in football, so I have their height and weight in football, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Nash is 6'4", 330, right? He had to drop 40 pounds to get to weight. So, realistically, when he wrestles, he's going to be 295.
That's a big boy.
I mean, he'll just put 10 pounds on in water, right? The other kid is 6'2", 220. Oof. So I don't know. He's a world champion, age level world champ, but he's going to be giving up 60 pounds if he wrestles Nash. And I don't know, Nash also, he was a prep champion in freestyle and folk style. He was no slouch in wrestling. And I just don't see how Iowa could put their true freshman against a full-grown man. I mean, a dude that's 65 pounds heavier than you. I mean, if he shoots underneath Nash just sprawls and lands on him and takes him out.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to wrestle their other guy, that Bradley Hill. But I think Nash pins that guy.
I want to, for comparison's sake, Nash, Ben.
Oh my goodness.
Now, granted, that's Iowa Center, Iowa City or, something like that. That's probably not him in college, but big boy.
Yeah.
Full grown polar bear wearing a sweater right there. I'm pretty sure he can't drive yet.
Right. And like, don't get me wrong. Like that kid's a legit talent. But like Nash was also the number 1 heavyweight in the country in high school, like according to the recruiting rankings. And he was the number 10 in the whole class overall. So Nash isn't just big. He's big and he's really good at wrestling.
Yeah.
And
I'm big, but I'm worthless. So
that's like, that's a big difference. Like him knowing how to wrestle. And like you said, he had 73 pins in a row. And if you're that good and you got 60 pounds on a guy, I just don't see it. And if it comes down to that match, I think Nash beats either of their guys. And I agree it's going to come down to the heavyweight because there's so many coin flips in this duel. There are so many close matches. I could see a team, Nebraska could win by 20 and I wouldn't be shocked. They would just have to pull off multiple coin flips in a row, right? But like, I wouldn't be.
So it's going to be like Nebraska, Iowa football, just on the wrestling side.
I wouldn't be I wouldn't be super shocked, but I think it's going to probably come down to, Nebraska's up 2 with heavyweight, and then Nash goes and decks pins his guy. But like what kind of story is that going to be is the football player comes out and beats Iowa in wrestling. First time we've done it since 2005.
Have Nebraska and Iowa, have they always met in wrestling, even when, prior to Nebraska being in the Big Ten? I mean, just because of proximity and the history of the two programs?
I don't believe it was an annual thing, but Iowa's won 12 in a row.
That's too many.
So it's enough. And even and I'll give Manning credit. One time he was asked, what about this rivalry with Iowa? And he was like, there ain't no rivalry if we don't win. If they keep beating us, we're not their rival.
Right.
Penn State's their rival.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So they think of us as like.
Yeah, they
kind of little brother.
They kind of do, but if you beat somebody 12 times in a row, I kind of would think that too.
Dylan, Fred's got a really good question for you.
Shoot.
And how does NIL work for Nebraska wrestling?
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about NIL there. I'm sure it just has to do with the collective. I don't think they do a lot of honestly do a lot of NIL. They do just selling the program and the coaches. And okay, so I did a big piece over the summer. I don't know if you remember this, Craig, about that Nebraska's athletic trainer, Tyler Weeda, like the wrestling trainer. And I talked to him recently and he was like, dude, there's a reason that we don't have transfers going out. We don't have starters leaving. The only guys we have leave are guys that are stuck behind guys like Ridge Lovett.
Sure.
Right. And he's like, and we help them find places to go where they can start. Right.
Okay.
They don't have guys leave. And when I talked to Manning, he said that Caleb Smith, who transferred in this year from App State, he's like, he turned down many multi-$1,000 NIL deals at different schools to come here. So I mean, okay, look at the coaching staff. Mark Manning's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The associate head coach, the number 2, is Brian Snyder, who was a 2-time NCAA finalist in Nebraska. He's the head coach in waiting, right? Your next assistant is Tervel Delagnev, who has an Olympic bronze medal and is widely considered one of the best heavyweight coaches in the country.
What?
And then your other assistant is James Green, who has been on 6 world teams. He's won 2 world medals, and he's going. He just had hip surgery last year after retiring, and now he's feeling so good. He's coming out of retirement to make an Olympic run.
How old is this guy?
31.
And
I sat down with him for 30 minutes last week, and it was super interesting. what he's kind of gone through. And like he told me, he's like, I feel better than I ever felt even before college.
That's the
miracle
of modern medicine.
He's dropping down to 65 kilos, and like he is dead set on making the Olympics.
All right, so
and those are the guys you get to learn from. Like those are your coaches. So like, how could you not want to, come wrestle here?
There are, I feel like there are very few coaches in the country who might be more highly regarded than Mark Manning.
Yeah.
Iowa, Penn State. I know it. Just saying, Iowa's, might cause some people, but you can't deny what Iowa does. As unimpressive and uninspiring as they are on the football field, what they do in the wrestling room is pretty gosh darn good.
Yeah, I don't really like the Brands brothers, but they're really good coaches. They obviously are. They win a lot of matches and they win national championships, and proof's in the pudding, man.
Were you at the game where there was Dana Holgerson in the audience?
No, I wasn't. That was last weekend when they had that tri-duel. It was like an afternoon. But no, I heard about it. I heard how he was there. That's the one that Nash was at with all the football players.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I wish I was there, but I did not make it.
Darn it.
Minnie.
I know.
Come on, stay focused.
And then we didn't even talk about Peyton Robb and like his flesh-eating disease, man.
Wait.
You remember that?
I do. And
he had that flesh-eating disease
right after. Didn't that happen right after the NCAA tournament last year, right?
It happened during it.
Oh, that's right.
Because he woke up and he was like all cold and shaky and puking, and he still went out and like went to overtime with like the guy he's wrestling this week for Iowa. He wrestled while battling flesh-eating disease and took him to overtime.
And that wrestler's name is Jared Franick.
Number 2 in the country. Yeah.
And Peyton's bounced back in a big way because, I mean, he's having another type of season that could, should see him at the Nationals and probably on the finals day. So this is the beauty and also the shame of wrestling is that there are a lot of really interesting stories to follow with not just this year's team, but I mean, I'm not there, but Dylan, you've had the pleasure of watching so much Nebraska wrestling. There have been so many great wrestlers come through, but again, so many of them are just not quite. I mean, tons of All-Americans, but no national champions here in the last decade and change. But we do have some wrestling novices in the Chatterfields, and Justin is one of them. And I'm going to read Justin's question, and then I'm going to read Fred's answer because Fred's on his best behavior. He says, I'm behaving. Dylan's here. I used to wrestle. So like we found the way to get Fred to behave himself. But Justin said, Dylan, for us not as knowledgeable of wrestling, what are the different wrestling styles? And then I'll read Fred's answer and you fill in any gaps. Fred says there's folk styles like high school or college wrestling. There's also Greco-Roman, which is upper body throws. Freestyle is kind of a mix, if I remember correctly. And I'll let you take it from there.
Yes. Folk style is like what we do in the United States in high school and college. They don't really do it anywhere else. I think it's the most appealing to watch. It has a lot of, like the top and bottom position, like freestyle. If you take a guy down and you don't turn him within like 5 seconds, they stand you up. So freestyle is pretty much folk style, but with no like being on top or riding or
no riding time. Yeah.
Right.
And so they get to that stalling.
It's very much about how good you are on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's why like a guy like Jordan Burroughs, he went from a 2-time NCAA champ to a 7-time Olympic and world champ, because his style, even in folk style in college, was so dynamic on his feet. He didn't ride people. He wasn't like throwing in bars and turning guys over. he was like taking you down and letting you up, and then take you down again and let you up, and then you just keep doing it. And it was, perfect style for freestyle, which is like, that's what the Olympics and World Championships is, freestyle and Greco. Greco is kind of the redhead stepchild of wrestling a little bit.
Isn't that like the Rulon Gardner?
Yeah, Rulon was Greco.
Yep. And so was, oh my God, the
kid from Omaha?
No, the kid from Highland, Illinois, who was a center for us and then went and wrestled at Concordia, whose name escapes me now. Tanner Farmer.
Yeah.
Tanner Farmer. Oh, I beat you to it.
Dude, I actually, me and my dad went to NCAA championships last year. My dad took me in Oklahoma, and I ran into Tanner Farmer, and I talked to him and ended up getting his phone number and interviewed him for a piece this last summer for us.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, he's a big man. You
talked to him a lot about his time as a football player, I'm sure.
Yeah. We talked about that. And then just like, he went, obviously he went to Concordia, right? And yeah, he was almost a national champ there. But yeah, he's tried to make a few like Olympic teams and like gotten super close, or like world teams, and hasn't been able to get over the hump against a couple guys. But yeah, he's really good. He's a nice dude too.
So I like how let's see. Fred says, nope, that's not it. Tiger Shark Diver says, folk style is America, the rest sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. Yeah. It's the best one.
What is it? I would imagine if you had to go from folk style to one of the two, right? Greco-Roman or freestyle, is there an easier one to transition to if you're going to try to wrestle internationally?
Yeah, for sure. Most guys go freestyle because, like, in Greco, you're just like, you're not able to touch below, at the legs. And like a lot of folk style is leg attacks, shooting an ankle or whatever, try to get a guy down. So most guys gravitate to freestyle. We actually got, I was tallying it. We got 6 former Huskers that are already qualified for the Olympic trials.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They just had a tournament a couple weeks ago. We had like 4 guys qualify for it. That's like one of those tournaments that like it's hard to qualify for. So like when they get to it, there's like 8 or 9 guys in the bracket because that's all that qualified. Right.
You're going to have to come back on and when it gets closer. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Update us because that is awesome.
Yeah, that'd be like in April.
Okay.
Is the Olympic trials. I mean, we got like, you got like Burroughs and James Green but like we got a couple guys that graduated recently that are in that, qualified already. So they're ready to go.
Thank you. I can't remember his name. I know he was an All-American last year and probably the year before at, I want to say 184, 197 for Nebraska.
You talking about Labriola?
Thank you. Michael Labriola.
Yeah, he was at 74.
Okay. I was in the vicinity. I was only 20, 25 pounds off. Is he one of those guys who's
He's not.
Okay.
He was entered a tournament, but then he didn't wrestle. There's still there's like different qualifiers to make it. And they have like one later on in April. It's because the last chance qualifier where like everybody that's not qualified goes into a bracket and the winner gets into the tournament. So he'll likely be in that. But like the United States is so deep. I don't know if he's even got a chance to get into it, to be honest with you.
Isn't that crazy? He was an All-American a year ago.
Yeah, 4-timer.
4-time All-American. And may not, have quite what it takes. But that's why they train, right? I mean, that's why places like Foxcatcher exist, to train wrestlers and hopefully not try to kill them.
And every year we got more, you got more national champs and All-Americans graduating and jumping into the pool of athletes, I mean, that's what shows, like, a guy like Jordan Burroughs, who's like been on 11 world and Olympic teams, right? Or like James Green, who's been on 6 of them. Like, to be able to do it year after year after year with like constant influx of talent into the pool.
That's crazy.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Hi, Jarek.
Hi, Jarek.
Hey, I like, my knowledge of wrestling is very minimal, so I'm actually enjoying all of this, to be rather honest with you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and again, it's you're sitting under a tremendous learning tree when Dylan's on. I tout to anybody anytime there's any wrestling question. I'm like, look, if you're a wrestling fan and you're not following, now I can never remember the Flow Wrestling where you were doing your side hustle. But if you're a Nebraska wrestling fan, there's no more complete coverage of Nebraska wrestling than on CornNation.com. Because Dylan puts the time and effort into it that the World Heralds and the Lincoln Journal Stars aren't, because it's not it's safe to say it's just not a money sport.
Yeah,
no, I think that's safe.
It does its thing.
Unfortunately, it needs to be, though.
And we have Dylan, who's knowledgeable, passionate, and takes the time to. So again, Nebraska wrestling fans, make sure that you are checking out CornNation.com routinely for Dylan's write-ups, or that Flow Wrestling something or other.
Flow Wrestling.
FlowWrestling.org, I know. And make sure that you if you got to subscribe or whatever it is, just click on the stuff with Dylan's name on it, and you will be educated. You'll be kept up to speed on everything. I also do the Nebraska high school rankings for them too. That's too much, man. I hope they're paying you time and a half. I know they should be, right? They should. We should all be so lucky. Right. But kids, this thing's gone almost 2 hours again.
It's been so great. I am so
thanks for having me, guys.
Oh my gosh, very educational. I'm watching tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, watch it before the duel, right?
It is. So we have Nebraska, Iowa back-to-back events tomorrow. We have wrestling again. That is 6:30. I'm sorry, Central. 5:30 Mountain Time, and then Nebraska men's basketball against Iowa. You can't see it. I'm doing a lot of this with my hands. I don't know why. I'm like juggling the air. But men's basketball, Nebraska, Iowa, also tomorrow night. So turn on Big Ten Network. Yes, Jurek?
That's at 8:30, and on a nice irony, I actually am covering that for CornNation. So
nice.
So Dylan and I will get you set up for everything you need to know for tomorrow.
Perfect. Hopefully, it would be nice. And I'm going to put you two in charge of it. No pressure. But over on CornNation.com, a match or a dual end game thread.
Yeah, we can definitely set that up.
Yeah, I can. You won't be paid extra. But since we have Nebraska athletics on TV, it'd be a great place to scope that out. So let's see. Fred says that Minnie's going to watch and diagram the flow for next week.
I got it.
Mike says that this is an education. Thank you. Let's see. Fred says Flow Wrestling, not to be confused with the flow of our former HC hoped for.
I think you're supposed to say that rapping.
I'm not. No. Let's see. No, I don't rap. I'm too old. Josh is reiterating something we talked about, but since it's wrestling, could literally come down to heavyweight match. Everyone watch on Big Ten Network or Big Plus or whatever it's on. It's on Big Ten Network. It's going to be a barn burner.
Can't wait,
let's see. And then we're going to leave it here. We're going to switch back to football briefly. Dylan, don't run off.
Okay.
But James said this over an hour ago. The curse has entered the transfer portal and is going to Alabama. Now they can have 20 years of suck.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
It's their turn.
It would be wonderful. Amazing.
Josh, to answer your question, we joined the thread. So it'll be on CornNation.com. All you got to do is log in as your usual, like commenting, and then comment along. I know the game threads for football are obviously always very lively, and basketball, I'm sure, as well. And Fred says that DJ Greg and the Funky Bunch, so I guess that makes you three. The funky bunch there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been funky in anything I've ever done in my entire life.
It's never too late to try and break a hip. Trust me.
No.
Excellent. Well, big thank yous, big shout outs to Jarek for joining us. Dylan, of course. Minnie, always great seeing you again. No John tonight, which is probably good because we wouldn't have had space for him anyway. I don't know if I saw this one. Okay, I got to say this. I'm being pressured. Tiger Shark Diver says, Greg, show Dylan my comment. Wrestlers get no support.
Is that the comment?
I guess so. Thank you, Dylan. We need more wrestlers supporting. I don't know.
We do.
Yeah, I agree.
More
I agree.
supporting.
I'm on that bus now. Yeah.
All right.
I think a lot of people listening need to go to the Vanny tomorrow and watch this. It's going to be great.
Yeah, brave the blizzard and,
Right. There's a polar bear.
I could.
Oh, that's right.
There's a
Will the polar bear get a sled and take everybody home safely at the end of the night?
I mean, what better way to go see a polar bear than in 10 inches of snow?
Right.
In its natural habitat. That'd be
I was gonna say, yeah. Don't even have to go to the Lincoln Zoo for that.
Let's see. Fred says, see, I got to read things sometimes, so I apologize when I go quiet. I get no respect. I tell you, I'd come home and my parents wrap my lunch in a road map. Right back out the door. So,
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of the 5 Heart Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, joining us for the last almost 2 hours of hopefully enjoyable content. Like, look, you could watch an entire movie or you could spend some time with us. And by God, I'm grateful that you choose us. Next week, I'm going to have the poll of, do you watch us on your mobile device or do you watch us on a computer? Do you cast it onto a TV? I feel like some people do that. But Minnie, are you signaling to me?
Yeah. Don't leave us just yet. The polar plunge.
Oh, okay. Take it, Minnie.
Well, the only thing I know about it is it's scheduled for January 27th. And John did it last year. He's planning on doing it again, right?
Yes.
We'll make him.
He asked us to remind him to talk about it tonight, and he's not here. So
I'm going to put Minneapolis, Minnesota polar plunge and see what happens in Google.
He needs constant reminders, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he's old. He's got that brain injury, he says.
Right. Oh, we know.
that alleged.
The alleged. Yeah, so polar plunge. Someday maybe he'll, I don't know, get us a link that we can share.
Yep, let's put it on our calendars though.
All right, and Cobby Corn. Don't forget about Cobby Corn. And while you're at it, don't forget about that book, Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. And now he can put Been Dead and Been to Tuscaloosa, but never been to Europe. So that's what he has to look forward to. He will never watch or listen to this, so we're safe. All right. Yeah, James Boardman says Young Guns and Polar Plunge. Let's make it a weekend. That could be a good time. All right, Minnie, am I free to close the show now, boss?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have a link for the Polar Plunge that you can help support John as he freezes what hair he has. Oh, anyway. All right. For our esteemed guests and our friends at CornNation, for Minnie, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is the 5 Heart Podcast. We remind you each and every week that 5 Heart is all the hearts you need. Minnie?
That's right. Go Big Red.
And good night, everybody. Stay safe. Stay warm. Take extra batteries and a granola bar in your vehicle if you're going to be driving through a blizzard. That's right.
Good
and a blanket. Right.
And a blanket. Yeah.
And water.
Water. Okay. Now just take a bag. Take a cooler. Go home. Stay safe.
Case of beer.